Hello and welcome to the PTMApp Learning Center. In this online training series called the PTMApp Learning Center, we will be talking about the Prioritize, Target, and Measure application tool, how to use it, what goes into the tool, and what comes out of it, and all the many ways you can use the data. In this video, we are going to touch on all these topics to help give an overview of what PTMApp is all about. Throughout this video, we will be talking to key people that help bring this tool into being, along with the experts that use this tool every day. To start off, I would like to introduce you to Matt Drewitz. Mark has been a thought leader behind the PTMApp tool and helped bring it to where it is today.
The Prioritized Target Measure application literally was a kind of a back-of-the-envelope idea that was developed initially by the International Water Institute along with Houston Engineering. And the idea was to really develop a tool along with information that local governments could use to address their day-to-day water quality issues that they were facing. And one of the big issues that local governments face is that they don't have a lot of time really to dig into some of the water quality issues they're facing. So the idea was to develop some sort of information that would be available to them on a very readily available basis, basically instantaneous, that they could use to address their business needs related to water quality on a day-to-day basis.
Now let's find out why this tool is so important. For this, I would like to introduce you to Chuck Fritz of the International Water Institute. Chuck played a critical role in the development of PTMApp standard products and has been a leader in increasing the utility of PTMApp in the Red River Basin.
PTMApp started really with some discussions that I was having with local SWCD folks who, you know, when we talk about the LiDAR data and the ability to generate an elevation map, they said the last thing we need is another map. But unless you can create a map that's, you know, at the field scale and helps me make decisions at very fine scale. So we started to do some of the terrain analysis techniques using LiDAR data to start to look at, you know, where erosion was occurring, where some of the phosphorus loading was occurring, and that's really where it started. I started to understand that those data would provide us with a wealth of stuff that we didn't even know what it was going to be yet. As the LiDAR data started to come online, we started to see that it was much more than just elevation data, and it was an opportunity to build things that really, in the simplest sense from my perspective, I wanted to take away the excuse not to do the right thing anymore.
To describe the Blue Ribbon Panel and the role it played in the development of PTMApp as we know it now, here is Matt Drewitz, Chuck Fritz, and Matt Drewitz. Matt manages PTMApp for the Board of Water and Soil Resources. He has served as Clean Water Specialist for Bowser and most recently, Measures and Outcomes Coordinator for the PTMApp project.
Okay, early on in PTMApp development, we got together a blue ribbon panel of local government staff and also staff from the Board of Water and Soil Resources to look at what aspects of PTMApp, you know, should be developed and what are the business needs of our local partners. And through that process, we began developing, you know, a direction for PTMApp that kind of landed us here today.
We wanted to have guidance from the users. So we assembled what we called the Blue Ribbon Panel. And so that Blue Ribbon Panel was comprised of primarily local government staff from watershed districts, from soil and water conservation districts, and to a certain extent from counties. They were our folks that really vetted the idea behind the Prioritized Target and Measure application. And so they were really the guiding force behind what has become the Prioritized Target Measure application.
And we reached out to soil and water folks throughout Minnesota, and we convened meetings, and basically all we did at those meetings was throw products in front of them and asked them if it makes sense. Did they understand it? And more importantly, did they fit with their current business workflow? The feedback that we got from that Blue Ribbon Panel really resulted in the products that are available on the PTMApp website now.
PTMApp exists in both desktop and web environments. To define the distinction between the two, here is Matt Drewitz.
For PTMApp, we have two different aspects of the program. One is the actual desktop application. There's a ArcGIS toolbar that is the actual model. And so going through that model develops all the products that come out of PTMApp, and then you can use that information directly in ArcGIS. We've also developed a web application for those who don't have access to ArcGIS on their computers, and they can access most of the information that is produced from PTMApp, and then they can quickly make a map and look at some of the information in there.
But why should you use PTMApp? Chuck will explain how organizations can use PTMApp to achieve their goals.
What PTMApp, I hope, forces people to do is say, well, what is it that you want to accomplish? And do you understand what the level of effort it's going to take to get there? If we can attain goals, local goals that are set by people, if they're reasonable and they're attainable and we can attain them, then we've accomplished a lot.
PTMApp can benefit local conservation organizations in a variety of ways. To discuss why, here are Chuck and Mark.
Yeah, I'm biased, so I think PTMApp gives you the most versatile tool that we have. Okay, this is a problem we're trying to solve. Okay, well, what can we do? Where can we do it? How much is it going to cost? We can give that to him, right? And in addition to that, we can also try to give him products where he can go and engage the grower, engage the landowner to say, hey, here's your options, right? There are things that we can do on your field, and I can point you to programs that'll get you cost share to do this, and from an economic standpoint, it will be good for you.
Again, I know of several soil and water conservation districts who use it to identify the practices they want to implement, say to improve a lake. And they can very rapidly generate a list of those practices, the value of those in terms of improving water quality, and then use that to apply for their grant dollars to build those and to put them on the ground. And there's quite a few folks who have done that. There's also successful examples of using that information within the context of large-scale watershed plan development.
While PTMApp has come a long way since its inception, the tool continues to evolve and adapt to daily business needs of conservation practitioners. Matt, Chuck, and Mark will now describe their vision for the future of PTMApp.
For the future of PTMApp, we hope to keep enhancing the system so it best meets the needs of our local partners working on one watershed, one plan. And also now as we move towards watershed-based funding, so it helps support local implementation as well as planning and different programs. So we're hoping that we can continue as those programs change, we can continue to meet the needs of those programs.
I would like to see, PTMApp everywhere. And anybody anywhere can grab that input data, grab PTMApp, and they can start to say, okay, what do we have to do here?
We're at a place now where the information that's available, that's developed with a prioritized target measure application, is extremely powerful. It, for the first time, to my knowledge, allows individuals, if they're interested in it, to actually assess the feasibility of water quality goals that have been established, to identify the level of effort in terms of the management practices and the structural conservation practices that might need to be implemented, the actual cost of those, the feasibility of achieving the goals. And so for once, we can create accountability around water quality using the information that comes from the prioritized target measure application. So that was really my interest, is to create that accountability and to create that ability to assess whether these goals can be achieved, but ultimately to implement them to actually make water quality better, because we don't have unlimited financial resources to implement those conservation practices, to work with the landowners, to work with the farmers to make water quality better.
Thank you for watching the first in a series of PTMApp Learning Center videos. Future videos will include additional PTMApp background and technical training for PTMApp Web. We hope to see you again soon.